guys, welcome back to Beyond the Pines. As you can see, we're switching things up a little bit, and we're going to be doing a different guest on each episode instead of just doing me and Abby for scheduling reasons. But don't worry, I know we're all going to miss Abby, so she will be back in some sort of way, so just stay tuned on socials. So, today, we're going to be talking about Alice Flagg and the Gray Man of Pawley's Island, and also our guest experiences. So sit down and sip with us as we talk Carolina ghosts. Today we are joined by Alyssa. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Okay. Hi, I'm Alyssa. I'm a junior biology major at Brevard, and I grew up in High Point, North Carolina.
All right. So, would you like to maybe tell us about your experiences? Do you believe? Do you not believe? What led to this?
Yeah. So, my childhood home still kind of gives me the creeps a little bit.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie. But obviously, I'm moved out of there now. Sometimes I go back and I get weird feelings. But that's because in my childhood, I think I was about 8 or 9-ish. And so my dad was a pastor when I was growing up as a kid. And to me, I feel like sometimes when you're religious and like you're well involved in the church, you're more likely to like draw like evil to you.
I feel like they kind of like target people who are in religion because they kind of try to like test your faith kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. So like I said, when I was about like 8 or 9, we had some stuff going on in my family, and we kind of all started to have paranormal experiences. So at this point, I'm the oldest of 4, but at this point in my life, it was only me and then my middle sister, and she was really young. So I remember like waking up in the middle of the night on several occasions just because I felt like there was like a presence in the room, and I felt like there was like, you know how you can feel, people say you can feel when someone's watching you.
Yeah.
I felt that, and there was a couple times.
8 or 9?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's so scary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And there was a couple times that I would wake up and I wouldn't see anything. I would just be like, okay, weird feeling, going back to sleep. But one night,
ignore it and nothing happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
One night I woke up and I might sound crazy, but I kid you not, in the corner of my room, like up towards the ceiling, there was just like a black figure.
Ew.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Yeah. And it scared me really bad.
Valid.
Really, really badly. But I couldn't do anything. Like, I don't know if I was just scared, so I was frozen, or if there was, like, some sort of presence there that made me not be able to move.
Like paralysis?
Mm-hmm. But, like, I couldn't move. And so I was like, okay, closing my eyes, praying, Jesus, save me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, so I just closed my eyes and prayed it off. And I went back to sleep, and, like, I told my parents about it in the morning. And I didn't know at that time, like, about all the experiences that my parents were having. But they were also having paranormal experiences, too.
Do tell. Please.
So my dad, actually, I called my dad so that I could get his full story and I could tell it today. But he started to experience things like before I did. And he would wake up in the middle of the night, kind of same as me, but he would like feel like a heavy feeling on his chest. And like he couldn't move. Kind of this, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it like a sleep paralysis moment, or is it like something more like sinister?
I think more sinister.
Oh.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think more sinister. And then there was like this one time that my dad was out with some of his friends from church, and he was just going around, and like, you know how sometimes people from churches will go around and give like the little cards or like just try and talk to you about God. So he was doing that at some sort of festival. I'm not exactly sure what it was. And he said that someone came up and put hex on him. And then
A hex?
a hex. Yeah.
Right,
Like
okay.
this whole
okay.
thing.
No, ew.
And he said ever since then, like, he just had weird experiences. Yeah.
Like, do you think that could have led to?
I think so. 100%.
That's terrifying.
It's actually horrifying.
So, has it happened multiple times? Like,
So,
where you see this figure?
not the figure.
Okay.
But that was only one time. So I could have been dreaming. I really could have been. I was 8 or 9. But I mean, now I'm 21 and I still can remember it so vividly. And like, that was just my experience. It's how I remember it as. And
You're definitely not crazy.
Okay, thank you.
I fully believe you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was really scared. I don't
Valid.
want anyone to think I'm crazy.
No, you're not crazy. You're not crazy. If nobody thought I was crazy, nobody thinks you're crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Validation from Kat.
Yeah.
So this was after my dad got the hex cast on him. My childhood dog would like freak out, like start freaking out. Yeah.
No, because pets definitely have
No,
like
they know.
They know. Like
They
cats
know.
know.
They know.
Like they know.
Yeah.
They fully know.
I completely agree.
Like growling into like an empty like
Just
corner. Wait, stop. Oh my gosh. Okay.
So it was still like light outside. Like the sun was setting. It was, like it wasn't dark. It wasn't 2:30 in the morning like his previous experiences. And so my dog, she like gets on top of my dad, like her paws here and like her other two, like in between his legs. And she starts like viscerally shaking. Like she's scared. But she's growling into the hallway. And because like my parents' bed is right here, and then the door to the hallway is like right there. And
I literally just got a shiver. Stop it.
And she just starts like growling and barking into the hallway to the point where like I got up. I came in there and I was like, what's going on? I think I was also like 8 or 9 or 10, like somewhere around there. And so then after that, so my mom had never really felt anything like a presence or anything until this point. And she like my dad said that she looked at my dad and was like, oh, I get what you mean now. Like I don't feel right. Like I don't like this at all. And so like they just started praying, and I mean that did the trick for the time being, but they ended up having a priest come to my childhood home and like blessing it, and
that's so scary.
Like all that stuff, and like everyone had to be out of the house too. Like it was
it like they exorcised the house, or
could have been?
Did it work?
It did for a little bit.
No.
It did for a little bit, and then I had an experience like a few years ago, and it would just be like little things here and there, like drawers opening, cabinets shutting, things like that. My family was going through a hard time, and my sister was in the hospital at this point, and so my parents would constantly be in the hospital with her, and it was spring break in high school, so I was home alone, and and there was this box of like pencils, crayons, and markers and stuff like that that was sitting on my parents' like their dresser. And I remember like okay, give you a little layout. So my bedroom door is like right here, and then my parents' bedroom door is literally right here. So like my room, their room. And then there's like the hallway that I was talking about earlier. And so I was in my room chilling, and I hear their bedroom door like slam shut.
No.
And I was like,
Ew.
no one's home.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? I was like, did my mom come home? No, she didn't.
Ew.
So I went out of my room.
Slam?
Like, and their door, you know how there's different types of doors, right? Somewhere you have to like really close them in order for them to even shut.
Yeah.
Theirs is like a really light door. So like you don't have to close it very hard at all. But it was like someone like or something. Yeah.
Oh, that's terrifying. Okay.
And so then I heard something else, like I don't know, like something was thrown. And so I was like, okay, what is going on? So I went out of my room and I opened the door to their room, and like all the other doors are shut because there's like a door to their bathroom and then another door that leads into another bathroom. Weird, but besides the point. And I look on their bed, and the box of like drawing supplies that I was telling you about, that was my sister's, was just like slung across the room onto their bed.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, like, where were they beforehand?
They were on the dresser, on their dresser. Yeah, and they
So
were like
what
really
is
high
going
up.
on in your home? What is happening?
Yeah, I don't know. I've tried to look into it to see if there were like who lived there before us, because my parents have had the house since before I was born.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time for them, but I tried to look into it and I could not find anything. So I'm like, I don't know if we pissed off some spirits of like people that lived here before,
Like if
or
it's
if-
residual energy or
Yeah.
like what kind of thing?
or if it's just genuinely like something evil.
Like
that just
from
like,
the hex?
yeah. That's another thing too. Or if like the hex just like brought it
Like
out.
could that have brought like an attachment kind of thing? Like that's terrifying.
So yeah, with that all being said, I definitely believe in the
Like
paranormal.
full chest, you would say.
100%. 100%. Yeah, because I've had my own experiences. I've heard my family's experiences, especially my dad's, and I trust that man with everything. And
Real.
like all my being, I trust that man. I know he would not lie to me. So yeah, I do believe. I think there are spirits. I think there's demons. I think there's angels. I think there's good and bad spirits.
Yeah. And I feel like this kind of goes back to the first thing that we were talking about, like people who are religious very much like are more
100%.
like I feel like it opens a part of like your mind kind of thing, like being spiritual or religious, like to seeing these things.
I completely agree.
Like that's kind of, I don't know, I feel like maybe it's just because like I've seen movies like The Nun and stuff like that, but like those like ideas don't come from nothing.
No,
so,
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And that's like, I love the Conjuring movies. I
Same,
love those
I
movies.
love them.
They're so good.
I was devastated to hear that Ed and Lorraine faked things,
They're
and I
actually
refused to believe it.
awful people. But we don't talk about that, okay? They were real
It's
stories.
just so devastating.
No, it is.
That's just so sad.
I know. But
What
there's
can you
real
do?
stories out there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do agree with you. I
Hearing
think
your experiences kind of just like upped my like belief a little bit. So I guess we'll see at the end of the series how up my fucking belief
yeah,
gets.
if you're like full chest like me, or if
Just another bleep has to go in. Another one has to go in. That was my bad again.
it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
All right. So for mine, Alyssa does not know these stories yet, so we're going to hopefully get her full reaction. I also have not read this research since I did it like probably a month ago, so I'm also going to be a little surprised as we go. But mine start with personal experience for both of these. This won't be for every story that's going to be in these episodes, but for these specifically are from like places that I grew up going to, so my family very much like has stories with them. So the first one is probably one of my favorite like folklores ever. Like I loved this story and this girl growing up, and like just kind of the version that I heard I loved. So we're going to be talking about Alice Flagg. And so for me, growing up, we've already talked about it, my family's weird, and I kind of grew up with my parents like always talking about, like, not always, but we had a beach house in Georgetown, and it's probably like I don't remember, but it was probably like, if I'm wrong, don't be mad at me, but I think it's like 40 minutes away from Pawley's.
I don't know the difference.
I have no idea. Okay, perfect. I think it's like 40 minutes from Pawley's. Okay. I'm gonna make a guesstimate. I don't know. I haven't been there in so long, but they would talk about Alice Flagg, and like I didn't know her last name actually. It was always Alice, and just Alice. And so in a way, they would talk about Alice to keep us like acting right and like acting like behaving, because they would be like,
so it's like Santa Claus.
Yeah, low-key. Like, but it was like during the summer, and they'd be like, Alice is gonna know. Hopefully my memory is not like wrong, but
Alice
how I remember
to
it
town,
is Alice is like coming to town, and she's gonna get you. And so Alice has a grave in Pawley's Island, or Murrel's Inlet, one of the two. Mm-hmm. I'll remember as I go. But I'll tell her story in a second. But basically, what we did growing up was we would put rings on her grave with like pennies, mm-hmm. and like pennies would be all across her grave. And, like, it's an actual grave for an actual woman. But like it was, how I remember it is it was super rusted, and you couldn't see the name on it. And like you couldn't really see, but like you could see like an A from what I remember. But we knew that like one of the things, like, you had to put rings down to not make her mad.
So it was like a peace offering.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a here you go.
Okay.
So this one time that we went and visited, I'm there with so many, from what I remember, is so many of my cousins. I'm there with my mom, my sister, like I was probably, I want to say 7 or 8. Mm-hmm. And we're at the cemetery, we're at Alice's grave. And in the back of Alice's grave, there's like, this is my 7-year-old memory of it, is this like cement wall. Like how graves at the back have like walls, because her mm-hmm. grave is like one of the back ones. And there's like a wall. And it's not a short wall by any means. And we're there. I think somebody put a ring down. We're all just kind of giggling, like, oh my gosh, like, who's going to get spooked kind of thing. Like, we're all trying to scare each other. All of a sudden, somebody hops over the fence. Like, a full figure hops over the fence as we are, like, standing around Alice's grave. And we all go running. I'm picked up like a football. Like, somebody just scoops me up, and then we're sprinting down, like, away from Alice's grave. And I don't know where we ended up. Like, I think we all went to the cars, but that is the extent of my memory. Maybe it was a nightmare I had, but that is such a vivid memory that I have, is us going to Alice's grave and somebody jumping the fence and us, like, sprinting, me being, like, scooped up.
The fence, like, to the cemetery?
It was, like, one of the, like, it's almost like a fenced off kind of thing. Like, it was, like, in the far back, and then the entrance was, like, you had to, like, I don't know.
That makes sense.
I can't fully remember.
No, that makes sense.
I definitely should have, like, called one of my cousins about this one, but if it tells you anything about how much I loved Alice, I also dressed as Alice one year for Halloween. I was in a little white dress, and I had, like, this necklace that was, like, just this comically large ring that lit up around my neck, and
did people know who you were?
Nobody knew who I was, and I was like, I'm Alice, what do you mean? And they're like, okay. Like, Alice in Wonderland, what are we talking about here? I was just like, I'm Alice.
You knew. That's the most important.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about where she stems from.
Okay.
So every story differs, and there's so many different versions. But she was believed to be born roughly in the mid-1800s, where she lived with her brother, Dr. Allard Flagg, and their mother in Murrells Inlet. This was in Murrells Inlet. Got it, guys.
Okay.
I was roughly
Perfect.
right. They lived at the Hermitage, which was like the seashore home beach house of the owners of Wackasaw Plantation. Her relationship with her brother and mother were odd, as they became very involved with her love life when she eventually fell in love with a man that was below her social status. Alice's mother told her, "Every woman must leave her mark on the earth, and how can you etch on earth anything that's worthwhile if you attach yourself to this common lumberman?" Right. They constantly berated her about falling in love with someone who could produce and add something to the family rather than tear it down. But against their wishes, she eventually accepted a ring from her true love. Which, solid move, honestly. It's giving like a Disney princess like story, low key. Like
It really is.
yeah, like the beginning of one.
It really is.
Her brother definitely doesn't end like one, but her brother yikes. Her brother forbade her to wear the ring on her finger, so she tied and concealed it to a ribbon and wore it around her neck at all times.
There we go.
There we go. There's the
Dots are
connection.
connecting, guys.
Yeah. After some time, her mother eventually discovered the ring, which sparked a fight that ended in Alice leaving her love and moved to Charleston, where she pursued school. With nothing but painful memories of her abandoned partner, Alice was set to be sent back to Murrells Inlet due to illness. When her brother reached her, Alice had lost all her strength and was extremely fatigued. When she reached home, she was substantially weakened, which led her to fall into a coma, where she soon passed away in her family home in Murrells Inlet. This poor girl.
So she really loved this man.
She really loved
this man. It made her sick.
It made her
to lose
sick.
him. That's
Never
so
settle
sad.
for less.
Never.
Never.
Don't ever.
Don't ever. For her funeral, she was dressed in her favorite dress, her engagement ring nowhere to be seen. And her face, although lifeless, displayed the pain and suffering of losing her one true love. It is said that she roams the grounds in hopes of discovering her lost engagement ring. So she passed away from heartbreak.
That's so sad.
That's devastating.
Alice. Girl, I'm so sorry.
Girl, please. I'm so sorry that this happened to you.
I understand why this is like one of your favorites.
Yeah. Like it's like a touching story.
It really is.
Yeah. As a group of young people, okay, we're going to get to the experiences. And the experiences of Alice are pretty crazy.
Okay.
So, a group of young people stood at her burial site. One of the young girls experienced her ring flying off of her finger, which took most of the day to find, and it is accounted that she had been unable to remove the ring from her finger for several years prior due to weight gain. So it flew off, even though she hadn't been able to like remove it prior to this.
Did it say, was she like swinging her hands around, or did it just like
I'm imagining just a like like I'm imagining it a little bit cartoonish, kind of, like, to be honest. Like, I'm imagining it just, like, flying, like, doing swirls in the air, and, like, them all, like,
can't catch me.
You can't catch me. It is also said upon visiting the resting place of Alice that if you start, this is what we did. If you start at the bottom of her gravestone and walk around it 6 times counterclockwise and then 6 times clockwise, stopping at the letter A on her marker and placing a token of recognition upon the resting place, which is usually like a penny or a ring. Like usually an engagement ring, but I think we bought like rings from like the dollar store and brought them. So I'm not sure if she's picky.
It's a ring.
But yeah, it's a ring. You make a wish and it will be granted. If this ritual is done at the stroke of midnight, not only will your wish be granted, but the ghost of Alice herself will appear before you. I'm curious if that's happened. I don't know. I didn't, from what I researched, nobody had said that she had appeared.
Okay.
But maybe people just haven't reported it. Maybe people just don't talk about it.
Maybe they didn't do it right.
Maybe they didn't do it right. Another account is that, so prior to, this is a direct quote, prior to taking these photos, doing the ritual, I removed my glasses and set them atop a nearby stand headstone, and then spoke aloud saying, "Can you watch these for a second for me, buddy?" After the pictures were taken, I went back to retrieve my glasses, and as I walked towards the headstone, I said, "Thanks for looking out for me." Before I could place my hand on my glasses, they abruptly fell to the ground. I then picked them up and said, "Thanks a lot, you jerk." That is when I noticed the name on the headstone. Dr. Allard Flagg, the possessive older brother of Alice.
He wanted those glasses.
He wanted those glasses. He wanted to make a statement.
Something.
He wanted something. Probably recognition.
Yeah.
Like, he's probably
No
like,
one
hey,
likes
like,
you.
I'm the one that forbade this girl, so
Maybe
like,
I shouldn't say that. Don't come for me. Don't come for me, Dr. Allard.
Please.
Please.
Please. Please, guys, please.
If you're listening.
If you're listening, Dr. Allard Flagg, please don't come after
no
us.
Harm.
No harm. So what are your thoughts?
I actually really like this story.
I really like, obviously it's so sad, but it's kind of touching.
That sounds bad.
But that's what,
okay.
no, I got what you're saying. It's like touching that it was like heartbreak.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody can feel that much, which obviously this is just like a folklore, like a legend, so we can't say fully that this is 100% accurate, but I like this version. I like this like style of the story.
So there are a lot of other versions?
Yeah, people say that she just died because she got sick, that there's no Alice Flagg, even though she has like documents. Like a lot of people say different versions.
So she definitely was a real person.
Definitely a real person.
Okay.
100%.
I don't know. I like it. But
I think I'm gonna choose to believe this one.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
'Cause
like make little cat happy kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's make cat happy.
Let's make cat happy.
Say you believe it.
Say you believe it.
Say it with us, guys.
Say it with us, guys.
I don't know. I would be so curious to like. Okay, so let's plan a trip. Let's go to Alice's grave.
We're going to
at midnight.
At midnight, and we're gonna do
the ritual.
What if we just do it? What if we just do the ritual? I would be so down.
I'm so down too.
I would bring a ring.
I love Murrells Inlet.
I love anywhere that's a beach.
Same.
So I'm there.
Take me to the beach.
Take me to the beach. I'm there.
I'm there, girl. Yeah.
So, speaking of the beach, the next one is also around the Pawley's Island area. I think Murrells Inlet is next to Pawley's Island. I want to say that, but I'm not.
I'm pretty sure as well.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not good at geography, but I'm pretty sure.
I think so.
Okay. So, the Gray Man is probably one of the most well-known stories in, like, that area.
I have heard of this one.
Yeah.
Do I know it like the back of my hand? No.
I didn't remember it.
But I have heard.
Yeah.
I have heard. And so has my mom. I was asking her. She was like, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay.
I feel like it's one of those stories that you're definitely told at some point, but I don't know. But so I am really excited because my dad has an experience, so I get to tell his experience. But I'm gonna first start with kind of how I remember this story. Is when I was little, like I said, we had a beach house that was like kind of in the heart of Georgetown, and we would always go and visit Pawley's Island and places like that. And we grew up somewhat ghost hunting on the beach, but it was like ghost crab hunting, which loved doing that.
Love that.
I was terrified of the crabs, but I loved like the act of like going there at night and like hunting. But then the second, the second we found them, I'm running. But I loved to be there. I was kind of just there for moral support for like my sister and people that actually like would pick them up.
Fair.
When we would go ghost crab hunting at night, we would be looking for the Gray Man. We were told it probably around the first time that we were told about Alice. We were told like, watch out for the Gray Man, like if you see him, a storm's coming, kind of thing. Never saw him, but my dad might have. So, him and one of his friends were walking down the Pawley's Pier which was a pretty popular spot. I don't know if it's still popular, but it was definitely at this time. And they were walking. It was probably, I want to say he said that it was like later in the night, like probably like 10, 11.
Yeah.
And they were walking, and they saw a male figure down at the bottom of the pier. And they just started walking down. They were just cruising. They weren't really caring too much about it, whatever. And once they got down there was no man. They looked under the dock because people would use this to jump off with like boards and stuff. So they looked around the dock. They looked all around. They looked back up. Like, there was no way that somebody could have been down there and not either jumped off or walked back the way that they came. And they looked all around, and there was not a soul around. And then a storm came a few days later. Yeah.
So I know a little bit about this. Does seeing him predict like
That is
bad storms?
Yeah.
Or is it just like a little rain?
So we're gonna get into it.
Okay, alright.
Gonna be mysterious about it. It's like 3 paragraphs.
It'll be in the back of my mind.
So just keep that in mind.
Okay.
There's so many variations of the legend of the Gray Man, but the most popular is a love story. Once again, our favorite. And literally nothing is scarier than people in love, though. So I feel like
so right.
I feel like it makes sense.
Love is terrifying.
Love can be so scary.
And I'm married, but love is terrifying. Love is literally terrifying.
Love is terrifying, and I'm in like a happy, healthy relationship. Love is scary.
Exactly.
A man fairly young, they say around 18 to 20 years old, was at sea for a long time traveling from Charleston to see his fiancée to ask her hand in marriage. He hoped to shorten the trip because of an approaching storm. The man and his horse, the horse of which I'm very curious about, wondering where this horse went, where this horse ended up. I am very concerned about this horse, to be honest, because there's no updates. When he decided to take a shortcut through the marsh just outside of Pawley's Island. When the sun began to set, his horse became bogged down in the mud and threw the man to the ground. The water mixed with the thick mud and trapped the man and pulled him under the surface, which killed him. The young woman, his fiancée, devastated by the news of his death, began taking walks at the beach to clear her mind each and every day. Every morning she would go on a walk to just clear her mind. On one of her walks, a figure is standing in her usual path. She thinks nothing of it and she just continues walking. But then she realizes it's a man dressed in all gray. As she approaches, she recognizes the face immediately. It's her lover. Knowing of his death, she begins to question him frantically. All he does, instead of explaining anything, is warn her to leave the island as a serious storm was approaching before vanishing into thin air. I have chills. Okay. The woman rushes home to tell her family what had happened in shock from the sighting. They go with their gut and heed his warning, gathered their belongings, and headed inland. The area was soon after hit by a powerful hurricane and left only one home untouched.
Oh my gosh.
Hers.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's crazy.
Okay, so it is like devastating.
But like an ideal way to come back from death, though.
Oh,
like at least to like
100%.
protect your loved ones.
Oh,
That's
100%.
That's incredible.
So it is like devastating storms that he predicts.
I think so, but I'm not completely positive because my dad didn't clarify what kind of storm it was.
Okay.
But another question I could have asked.
Most storms at the beach though are like.
I feel like they're pretty bad. Yeah.
Most of them can be pretty bad. Yeah.
But according to the legend, the Gray Man still roams the island in days before a storm is set to make landfall. Many say he is searching for his lover. He reveals himself to a select number of people, warning them to leave before the storm hits. Those who listen will return to find their home untouched from the storm. So this is a good guy.
He's
pretty
a good
solid.
guy.
But like, what happens if you like don't? It's not really. It's not telling me what happens if you don't. He just like I guess like you're just in harm's.
You die?
Immediate death if you don't heed it.
Oh.
Is that what happens?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
That was
I'm
just
hoping
my
maybe
guess.
it's just like you're just more in harm's way.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. All right. Another legend of him is that he is the spirit of Plowden Charles Jenneret Weston, the original owner of the house on Pawley's Island that is now known as the Pelican Inn. Plowden was born in 1819 into a wealthy Georgetown rice plantation dynasty. He spent his early years at Laurel Hill Plantation, where he was privately educated by a British tutor. Right. When the boy was 12, his family temporarily moved to England for his schooling. The boy's father was adamantly anti-British, but wanted his son to have a proper classical English education. I feel like that was so the time.
They sound like just
Yeah.
bundles of joy.
They sound like just a ray of sunshine right now is what I'm hearing. The Weston family returned to the Georgetown area, but Plowden stayed to study at Cambridge, where he fell in love with Emily Frances Esdale, the beautiful sister of one of his close friends. Was his friend mad? Like, was his friend mad, though? I wonder.
It's giving like best friend's brother, but like sister.
But, like, sister.
Yeah.
But, like,
I don't know.
all I could think of is,
Actually-
like, Jesse's mom. But that's not the same thing.
I did have a situation like that growing up with one of my friends, and I bet he was pissed.
Shoot, yeah.
I bet he was.
I get it. Emily's father was an English baronet. Plowden feared that his father would not approve of his plans to marry Emily because of his anti-British sentiments. Plowden's father agreed to the wedding when he came back to Georgetown to discuss marriage plans face to face. Emily's father and Plowden's father began to compete to see who could give the young couple the finest wedding present. Emily's father opened the battle by giving them a dowry of 7,000 pounds. Plowden's father arrogantly replied that he would give the couple 70,000 pounds, a house in London, and one in Geneva. Emily's father quickly realized that he could not compete with the astonishingly rich rice planter. Plowden and Emily Weston married in 1847 and settled at the Hagley Plantation, a gift from Plowden's father. They built a summer home, Pelican Inn, on Pawley's Island to escape plantation heat and social demands. The house was beautifully crafted by Hagley's carpenter, Renty Tucker, which elevated foundations and handcrafted details. The Westons split their time between Hagley and Pelican Inn, leading a productive life devoted to their plantation and scholarly pursuits. Okay, it's getting solid, yeah. Plowden, a historian and Southern advocate, predicted the Civil War and later served as a Confederate officer. He outfitted his company at his own expense and hosted troops at Pelican Inn. Near the war's end, he contracted tuberculosis, prompting his election to lieutenant governor to ease his duties. Before his death in 1864, he distributed personal gifts to Hagley servants and requested burial at All Saints Waccamaw Episcopal Church. Mrs. Eileen Weaver, who owned Pelican Inn for many years, says she believes the gray man is someone else, who she identified in a photo. The first time she saw a spirit at Pelican Inn, she was in the kitchen with her cook preparing homemade bread. The two women were kneading dough when Mrs. Weaver turned to see a lady standing behind her with her arms crossed, watching sternly at the process. The woman's dress was made of a gingham material with gray and white check. With a pearl bodice and a long apron tied at her waist, Mrs. Weaver knew immediately the figure was not a living human. She became a very familiar sight at Pelican Inn. Mrs. Weaver's daughter first encounter with the spirit she related in an interview. During spring cleaning one year, my sister-in-law Gail was helping my mother get the inn in shape for the summer guests. Her job involved cleaning the upstairs bedroom and hallway. Mother always had magazines and books on a long reading table in the hallway for the enjoyment of the guests. Usually, at the end of the season, all of the magazines would be discarded, but some comic books remained this time from the previous year. Gail reached to thumb through one. Finding it interesting, she leaned back against the table. This apparently did not sit well with the ghost of the house, because after a few moments, Gail felt a tug at her shirt tail. Thinking it was one of us teasing her, she ignored the tug and continued to read. Again, there was a tug at her shirt tail. This time, she turned around to see who was there. Never look. Never look.
No, don't ever
Don't
look.
ever look.
I
Ignore. If
learned
anybody
that.
has learned that, Alyssa has learned that. Do not look. She realized that the wood floors made it impossible for anyone to sneak up on her without being heard. Whoever it was got the message across because Gail quickly laid the comic book down and went back to work. It took Gail some time to tell us the story, but we never doubted that it happened. This type of thing happens on a regular basis around the house. Mrs. Weaver told her experiences at Pelican Inn to the late chronicler of Georgetown's history, Julian Stevenson Bullock. He brought her an assortment of 19th century photographs and asked her to look through them. From the many photographs, Mrs. Weaver identified a picture of a woman and another picture of a man who looked unmistakably like the spirits in her home. The pictures she had chosen were photographs of Mr. and Mrs. Mazick, cousins of Plowden and Emily Weston. The Westons did not have any children, and when Emily Weston died, the Mazicks inherited the Pelican Inn. The Mazicks lovingly operated the home as a bed and breakfast inn for many years. Mrs. Weaver believes the spirit of Mr. Mazick is the Gray Man.
Wow. The dots really
That
connect to
really
this one.
connected. Okay.
Okay.
I feel like that gives more of like a person to this like gray man.
I like this.
Yeah.
I like this version.
I liked the first version for like the whole like love story kind of thing, but this
Yeah.
one kind of makes more sense and connects the dots. Like it kind of
I agree.
connects it to real life in a way.
Do you think that maybe they could like both be true at the same time?
I think there's definitely a way. I think they're definitely connected.
I feel like that's how stories get like separated.
Yeah.
So they're like both parts are true. They just get separated.
Like it's like a constant game of telephone of people being like,
Yes,
this is like what I hear, what I hear, what I hear.
We are participating right now.
We are. We're telling different versions of a story.
Exactly. I like it.
I like it.
How
Which
do
one
you-
was your favorite?
I think Alice.
That's valid.
I think Alice was.
I think Alice was also my favorite.
Yeah.
I know what wasn't my favorite, and that was Alyssa seeing a figure in the corner of her room.
That also was not my favorite.
Yeah, I didn't love that one.
But it happened.
It happened. I fully believe you,
And
and I know they
will-
all definitely believe you.
Thank you, Kat.
She's not crazy.
I swear I'm
I
not.
saw the comments. None of us are crazy. I saw them. Nobody's crazy. Okay?
No.
No.
I would not tell a story if it was untrue.
Especially
never.
on the internet.
No.
No.
And that's, I don't know, that's not something to mess with in my opinion either.
yeah.
You know? If something like that
It's like bad
didn't
juju.
happen to you, don't say it did.
Don't say it did.
Don't say it did.
Looking at you, Zach Bagan.
Literally.
Literally looking at you. And Ed and
Literally.
Lorraine.
Literally. Come on, guys.
Come on, guys.
Come on, guys. You
Really?
disappointed me. You
You
really did.
fooled me so well, though.
They
I
did.
really believed it. And I was so into it, too.
Same. Same.
I'm disappointed. Won't
is
say I'm
what it
surprised, but I'm disappointed. Actually, I was surprised when I got it.
But I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say I'm glad that happened to me. But some part of me is just because it opened my eyes and I believe and I'm more aware.
Yeah.
And I can tell other people my story and
And you
it's,
get to spread that experience, tell
I
people.
know. Even if people think I'm crazy, I don't care. I don't care. It
She's
happened.
not crazy.
I don't care.
The only person that has to like know it's true is you. Which I also believe.
And
you.
Kat.
And Kat. Of course. All right. Well, anything else?
I don't think so. Thanks for letting me come on,
Of course,
Kat.
thank you for coming.
Yes.
Guys, if you like what you're seeing, there's going to be more on our Instagram, so be sure to follow. And we are going to be trying to get Spotify soon, so I will keep you all updated on Instagram, so you have to follow to be able to see these updates. But we are so very excited to once again be starting this journey, and thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.